guys, this is Mike, also known as the One Fig Man, out on message boards such as ourfigs.com, figbid.com. So I'm here today to do an interview with the actual owner of, or I would say the person whose family the Ciliegia Dolce belongs to. We previously had an interview with Eric, who owns the farm that the Ciliegia Dolce resides on. But through interactions with Eric, we were able to set up a meeting or an interview with Dan today. Dan actually introduced me to Mr. Capocci, in which you'll see in the Capocci interview about the Capocci fig. So I want to take a few minutes today to discuss directly with Dan the heritage or the history of the Ciliegia Dolce and how it wound up on Eric's farm. So now we can actually hear from the family member himself. Dan, where did the Ciliegia Dolce come from?
It came from Cosenza, which is a province, and there's a little village called Rose, and near the Boot, down in Italy. It was my grandmother's family had quite a bit of land down there, close to 100 acres, and my grandfather wasn't married to my grandmother at the time. He was 18 years old, and he was quite learned at the time, so he ventured when he was 18 here to the U.S. and settled in 1906-07 in Connecticut.
Okay, so your grandfather came over when he was 18 in 1906.
Yes.
And is that when he brought the Ciliegia Dolce?
No, he was here, and he started to he became the head of an estate here. He ran an estate because most of the estates were Italian artisans. So he became a foreman for one of the estates. It was 90 acres in town for about 5 years, and then he went back to Italy, and that's when he brought the fig tree back. So it's probably 1911, 1912 when he brought back the fig tree.
Okay, and he brought a whole tree, or did he bring cuttings?
No, he brought cuttings.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are, no, I think he did, it wasn't a cutting. They did have what they called roots. And it was a small plant, he told me, small plant with roots. And what they did, they would wrap it in some type of cloth that was, was moistened, so the roots would not deteriorate. And they put it in a suitcase. In those years, no one really looked in your suitcase, so that's how they brought it on over.
So roughly 1911, the Ciliegia Dolce came over. Then how did we get 3 trees, or were they weren't originally planted on the farm?
No, they he had friends of his that grew them in Greenwich, because he had family in Greenwich, and that's where he planted the trees. And then when he finally got his first house in the center of, I think it was the 1930s, then he planted them in the center of town.
Okay, and then they were planted in the center of this town, and then they were moved to the farm?
No. What happened is the family moved to Hampton Road, which was a number of homes here, and my father had a huge garden.
Do me a favor, stop saying because I'm going to be beeping out the city because I don't want everyone to know.
Oh, okay. So my dad...
Try to keep the mother tree safe, you know, you get some crazy people out there, they'll try to search it down and chop down the tree.
My dad and the family bought a number of homes here in town. It was like a complex, and they had a huge garden there, and he took the fig trees on over here in town. Here in town.
Okay, so what year or how long ago did they move to the farm?
Well, they didn't move to the farm yet. It was in the 1950s that they moved to this complex here in town, and as I say, my father had a garden. And then when they sold the complex area and the garden ceased, then we took the fig trees and brought them over to Eric's garden.
Okay,
and that's where they're right.
And what year was that?
That was in the late 80s, early 90s.
So I've spoken to a few different people about it and had gotten a little bit of different feedback, and I'm glad we're able to straighten this out and get some clear information from you, who actually was the person who was involved moving them. So, roughly 1910, 1911, the tree, a baby tree, was brought from what part of Italy again?
It was down in Rose, which is the
Okay.
Providence of Cosenza, down by the boot.
Okay. So down in Cosenza, Rose,
Cosenza.
Italy.
Rose, Italy.
Okay, and apparently Greenwich is a sister town of Rose, Italy.
Exactly,
So
it is.
A lot of people from Rose came over to Greenwich.
Are in Greenwich, right.
Okay, so the tree originally was from Rose, Italy in 1910. Your grandfather brought it over and had it set up in Greenwich.
Yeah, his sister lived in Greenwich, and he lived with his sister while he was over managing the estate here. And that's where he planted it, in his sister's house.
Okay, so, oh, I see, the town of Greenwich, not,
Town of Greenwich.
okay, got it. Okay, so it was brought over so Dan is in Greenwich. I'm gonna beep all this out, but just my own information here. Okay, so it was brought over, set up in the center of the town here, and then about in
1950s.
1950s it was brought over to this city.
Yes.
Okay, and then around what year did it go to the farm?
About 1985, 1990, around there.
All right, between 85 and 90. Okay, so it's been at the farm for
Quite a few years.
Yeah, about 25 years.
Yeah.
Okay, I was under the impression it was only there for about 5 years.
No, I don't know where Eric. It's been there for quite a while.
I'm not sure.
Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm not, because I know my father.
I don't remember.
What happened was Eric had another farm, and it went from where we were living in town over to Eric's farm, and then it came over to this farm here.
Okay.
So he's only been here about 7 or 8 years in this farm.
Okay, so
it's been moved around for quite a while.
All right, so the
fig tree.
so the trees that we saw in the previous Ciliegia Dolce interview have only been there for roughly 6 to 8 years, guesstimating based on the information from Eric and Dan, and that's the size of those trees in that location. They were at a previous farm before that, and then before that they were in the center of a town, and then before that they were in another part of Greenwich.
Yes.
But prior to that, they were in Italy.
Italy.
All right.
Exactly.
Anything else you want to share with us about this fig that you have interest in?
No, but the fig tree my grandfather had was very tall. I mean, it was a huge fig tree, probably 4 times the size of what you see here.
And this one was bent over, right?
Yeah, and what he would do is he would cut half the roots, and he'd have a hole, and he'd just bring it on over, and then in the summertime lift it again. And
so he would cut off part of the roots on the side of the root ball,
yes,
so he could bend over the tree.
Bend it on over.
The other
because
root ball would stay in
It was like
there.
a tree. It was like a big tree. I mean, it was huge. And
But we don't do that with the Ciliegia Dolce. That's over at the current farm now.
No,
It just stays there
No, it's cut down, and they just pour leaves on top of it.
on the root ball itself.
On the root ball, yeah.
Yeah, to mulch the root
Yes.
ball. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys got to cover that root ball. I know you guys are having a water problem, but that root ball is exposed to the outside.
That's the problem.
Cover it.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the interview.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, I hope you liked it. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that red subscribe button below. Thanks for joining us. That part gets
Yeah,
edited.
I believe